Class. We're going to do our last class by video. This is I don't know what kind of class it's called, cyber class, I guess. So class 6, we're going to do a few things. It's going to be a little bit shorter than our normal class because you're not going to be taking the practice test while teaching it online. There's going to be some things you can do at home at your own leisure. So class 6, what we're going to do is we're going to go through test number 7. Instead of you watching the videos from those random people, I'm going to do section 3, most of the problems. That way I can give you a few extra tips that they might not give you in the videos. I wish I would have had time to do videos for all the sections. I think it would have been helpful. Then we're going to talk about Khan Academy, which we haven't used enough, but we're going to talk about how you can use it in your last week. And then I'm going to give you homework for the final week, preparing you for the SAT on, I think it's May 5th. So let's go. We're going to start with test number 7, and I'm going to do these problems for you. So hold on, here we go. So I'm going to start with question number 5 just to save a little bit of time. So get my pencil out. So the first one says, if f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 3 over x minus 1, what is f of negative 1? Whenever you see f of something in parentheses, you're basically saying x equals negative 1. You're taking out a function notation. You're just basically, function notation is evaluate the function with the negative 1. So when you put the negative 1 in here, you're going to get negative 1 squared is 1. Negative 6 times negative 1 is 6, plus 3 over negative 1 minus negative 1 is negative 2. And you're going to have 10 over negative 2, which is negative 5, answer A. That one wasn't bad. I did that really fast because I know most of you probably got that right. So here's another one. A company makes wildlife video purchases. A company that makes wildlife videos purchases camera equipment for $32,400. The equipment depreciates in value, which means it goes down in value at a constant rate for 12 years, after which it is considered to have no monetary value. How much is the camera equipment worth 4 years after it's purchased? So it's going down a constant rate, so it's going to go down to 0 after 12 years. So we're going to figure out how much it goes down every single year. So I'm going to divide this by 12. I did this all by hand. I'm going to spare you the gory details of my long division. And every year it depreciates $2,700. So it's going to go down for 4 years. So I'm going to take this and the depreciation each year times 4. Again, did this by hand because you can't use a calculator. And that's how much it's going to go down. That's how much it's going to go down after 4 years. So now we're going to just take that. We're going to take our 32,400 and I'm going to subtract from it the 10,800. This is like an arithmetic problem. And our final answer is $21,600 is what it's going to be worth after 4 years. And yay, that is an answer. It's always a good thing. Okay, let's talk about, let's scroll up a little bit, I almost forgot one. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? Now, one way you can do it, you can see this is in vertex form. Vertex form looks like this. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. This is a parabola where the vertex is h. Remember, it's always opposite when it's in parentheses and then the same when it's outside of the parentheses. So they're basically taking this little expression and putting in vertex form. Now there's a lot faster way than completing the square, but I'll show you how to complete the square in a minute. What we can do is say, okay, let's let x equal 0 and see what this expression yields. If I put 0 in, I'm going to get 0 plus 4, which is 4. Then I'm going to put 0 in where all these x's are and see which expression equals 4. So if I put 0 in the first one, I'm going to get 3 squared plus 5 equals 9. So that one's not it. So 0 plus 3 is 3 squared is 9 minus 5 equals 4. Guess what? They're the same. So this is your answer. You can check the other two just to double check, but that is the correct answer. Vertex form, if you wanted to do it that way, you would, if you want to complete the square to get it into that form, some people just love completing the square, so hey, go ahead. Just takes a little bit more time. Maybe it doesn't take more time. So we're going to make this a perfect square trinomial, so we're going to divide the 6 by 2 and then square it. So it's going to be 6 divided by 2 is 3, squared is 9. whatever you add, you need to subtract off, or it's going to change the value of the expression. So perfect square trinomial, and look at that, it's the same as B. So whatever floats your boat on that. All right, another word problem in section 3. So Ken is working this summer as part of a crew on a farm. He earned $8 an hour for the first 10 hours. Because of his performance, his crew leader raised his salary to $10 an hour for the rest of the week. Ken saves 90% of his earnings from each week. What is the least amount of hours he must work for the rest of the week in order to save $270? So, so we have to figure out what 90% of this is first to see how much money he has to make. So we're going to take 90% of, we're going to say what amount does he have to make? So when he takes 90% of it, he's going to get $270. So that's a little bit tricky. You're not going to figure out how much it's going to cost for him to be, how many hours he has to work to make $270. That's 90%. This is only 90% of what he makes. So we're going to figure out what he has to make. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do my hand division again. And we're going to figure out he's got to make $300 because when he takes 90% of that, he's going to get $270. So he needs to make $300. So we're going to take the $300 and the first 10 hours, he's going to make 80 of it. I'm going really fast. I'm not thinking too much. I already did this problem ahead of time, so this is without thinking it out in front of you. So that means he has to make $220 more. So this is how much he has to make. He got $8 for the first 10 hours, so that's $80. So he still has to make $220 more dollars. But he's going to make $10 an hour. So if I divide this by 10, it'll tell us how many hours, and it's going to be 22. So he's going to have to work 22 more hours. Hopefully that made sense. A little word problem. All right, let's go to the next one. Another word problem. That's why I like section 3. There's not a lot of word problems, but guess what? This one has them. So Maria needs to hire at least 10 staff members for an upcoming project. The staff members will be made up of junior directors who will be paid $640 per week and senior ones who will be paid $880 per week. Her budget for paying the staff members is no more than $9,700 per week. She must hire at least 3 juniors and at least 1 senior. Which of the following systems of inequalities would represent this problem? So if we let X equal junior and Y equals senior, we know that she has to hire 10 people. So we know that X plus Y, she must hire at least 10. Or does it say more than 10? Let's see what it says here. Oops. It says at least 10. So she needs to hire, so it's going to have to be greater than or less than 10. Remember, at least is greater than or less than 10. Because she could hire 11 or 12 or 13, so it's going to be greater than. She has to do at least 10, so it's going to be greater than 10. Okay, so she has a budget of $9,700 per week. They're going to pay the juniors $640 and the seniors $880, and she can't pay them any more than $9,700. So she can pay less than that, but she can't pay greater than that. She has to hire at least 3 juniors. So she can hire more, but at least 3 juniors. And at least, make sure you get this at least thing. At least means greater than. At least 1 senior. So if you look down the list of choices, you're going to see it's answer choice B is what we wrote. You can kind of work from the answers, but just make sure you get the at least is the greater and at most is the less. All right, back up to this one. In the equation, A, B, C, D are constants in the equation. If the equation has roots, now do you know what roots means? It means solutions are -1, -3, and 5. Which of the following is a factor of this polynomial? Now, if you had something like this, I'm kind of deviating this just a little bit. going something really simple. If I said, what are the roots to this equation? What you're basically saying are, what are the solutions? So you know how to solve this one, right? I made it pretty easy. So you would say, oh, my roots are going to be -3 and -2. Well, you can work backwards. When they give you your roots, you can work backwards to find your factors. You're just going to do the opposite sign. Remember, parentheses are the opposite signs? So if I look at my roots right here, I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to say x plus 1 is a root, x plus 3 is a root, and x minus 5 is a root. These are also they're not a root. I'm using the root to make factors. Yeah, 5 is the root, so to get the factor working backwards would be x minus 5. So you look through this list of what the factors are. We have an x plus 1, so the answer has to be x plus 1. So from the roots, you can go backwards you could actually multiply this all together and get your polynomial. But we're missing d, so we're missing one of them, so it wouldn't really work. No, that's right, that's all the factors. The 3, it tells you how many answers you have. The highest exponent tells you that you should have 3 answers. So that one was just kind of terminology. Hopefully you understood what I did there. All right, we're moving right along here. Whiteboard 3, ooh, this looks fun. Okay, these are our rational exponents, where x is greater than 1, y is greater than 1. They're saying that because you can't have 0 in the denominator. Which is equivalent, which one is it equivalent to? Well, if you have a negative exponent like this one, we're going to move it down to the bottom and we're going to make it x squared. Fractional exponent, remember the bottom goes on the seat, so this is going to be the square root of 2. Let's do the bottom denominator now. This is the 3 goes on the seat, so it's going to be the cube root of x. And then you have y to the -1, so we're going to move the y up to the top and make it positive. Remember, if I have something like x to the -3, it's going to be 1 over x cubed. You move it up and down to make it positive or negative. Let's look and see if any of these look familiar. Whoops, did I put a 2 instead of a... Oops. You're probably all saying, what in the world are you doing? This should have been a x. There you go. So now we can look through the list of choices. Do any of them look like, did I do something wrong here? Oh, that should have been a y. Let me just do this one over. I'm sorry. Hate to do this when I'm on a video, but I'm not going to redo the video for this. Here we go. Let's try it again. I'm going to move the x squared to the bottom. I'm going to do the negative exponents first, and then we're going to do y to the top. This is the square root of y, and this is the cube root of x. I made that way harder than it was the first time. So now when we look through our choices, we're going to see that it looks just like D. All right, here's a function defined by f of x equals x plus 3, x plus 1. The graph of f in the xy plane is a parabola. Which of the following intervals contains the x-coordinate of the vertex of the graph? Okay, you could graph this if you have, oh, never mind, we have no calculator. So let's just look at if we did graph it. Sorry, my line is white. Oh boy. Okay, not too much I can do about that. I don't think I can change that, can I? Oh, guess what I did? Okay, I don't want to waste too much of your time here. Hopefully you're watching this because I do different ways to do these problems. Okay, so when you have it in the form, remember we talked about in the previous problem that if we have the factors, so we have x plus 3 and x plus 1, we can find the solution. So remember it would be x equals -3 and x equals -1. The solution is when it crosses the x-axis. So when y equals 0, x is going to be equal to -3, and when y equals 0, it's also going to be equal to 1. The roots are also called the zeros. That's where x equals 0. Now they want to find the, you can see the positive, if you multiply this together, we know it's going to be a happy parabola because the first value is going to be positive. So if I want to find the vertex, it's going to be, parabolas are symmetrical. So it's going to be right in the middle. The vertex is going to be somewhere down here. We don't know what it is. All they want to know is the x-coordinate. So the x-coordinate would be right in the middle, so it's going to be -2. So we have to find the interval where -2 lives. It doesn't live here, but it does live here between -3 and 1. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is in between these, so B is the answer. So that's that one. All right, next page, I think. All right, hopefully I didn't skip any. All right, which of the following is equivalent to this? One way you can do this is you can pick a value. You can say, I didn't do this one this way, but you could do it if you don't know what to do in this problem. You could say, I'm going to let x equal 0, and I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to get 5/3 if I did that. And then I'm going to put 0 in all these and see which one gives me 5/3. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is it's a long division problem. So you're going to have x squared minus 2x minus 5, and you get x minus 3. You say x times x is x squared, x times -3 is -3x. Most of you know how to do this. We've done this since Algebra 1, so this should be kind of second nature to you. So you're going to get x minus 5, and then you're going to get a plus 1, and you get x minus 3. Change your signs and add. I always circle them because I'm afraid I'm going to forget to do it. Whoops, except you should get 2 and not 3. So if we look at the answer, it's going to be x plus 1 plus or minus 2, which is your remainder, over your divisor, x minus 3, and the answer is going to be D. Or if you plugged in the number, I'm hoping that you're going to get the same, you're going to get the 5/3. All right. This one is kind of complicated. Of course, it's a word problem. It's towards the end of the section. So they're gonna ship a rectangular box. It tells you that the rectangular prism, so it's going to have a height. The sum of the perimeter of the box and the height of the box cannot exceed 30 inches. The perimeter of the base is determined by using the width and the length of the box. So it says if the box is a height of 60 inches, its length is 2.5 times the width. So we're going to let x be the width. This is 2.5 times x. If we find the perimeter of this, we're going to add 2.5 and 2.5 is 5x. 6, 7x is the perimeter. Right? It says the sum of the perimeter of the box and the height of the box, which they told us was 60. It says, let's see, it says up here, cannot exceed 130 inches. So it means it has to be less than or equal to 130 inches. And if I solve this guy, we get 7x is less than or equal to 70. So x has to be less than or equal to 10. So it's going to have to be this one, between 0 and 10. And that one wasn't too bad, just a lot of words. Okay, and the last problem. Is this the last one on this? Yeah, until we go into the grid ends. This expression can be written as this, where k is a positive constant. What is the value of k? All right, what in the world did I do to this problem? I think I just plugged in the answers and tried to figure it out. So you can just work backwards on this guy. I mean, there's other ways you could set them equal to each other, I guess, to find k. No, you can't because there's two variables. So the only way that I came up with it was I was just started plugging in values. I'm trying to get this one to look like this one. So we'll just do a couple and then I'm going to move on to the right answer so we don't take too long. So if I take 1/3 x minus 2 times x minus 2, I'm putting this in, I'm saying this is equal to k. This is equal to k. So I'm going to get 1/2, and this is going to be x squared minus 4x. You can see we're not getting the right answer here because we no longer, we don't have, nothing canceled out, so it's a trinomial. The same thing's going to happen if you do 6, because you're just going to get 36 at the end. You could put the square root of 2 in, because that seems kind of logical. So we're going to get 1/2 x minus the square root of 2 times x minus the square root of 2. And so we're going to get 1/2, and if we FOIL this one out, we're going to get x squared minus 2 root 2 plus 2. And that one is not looking like the same thing. This is actually 1/3. I keep writing 1/2. No, 1/3. I don't know where I got the 1/2. Okay, so let me just erase those because they don't work. And let's do square root of 6. I mean, you could almost just say it's going to be that one because, you know what, I did these all wrong every time. I didn't see this was minus and this is plus, but they don't work anyway. So we get 1/3 x minus root 6 times x plus root 6. Can't see these days. So you get 1/3. If you do the first, you get x squared. The outer and inner, and all of those would have canceled. Minus 36. And I wrote 1/2 again. And makes me want to start my video over, but I'm not going to. And then if I distribute that through, I get 1/3 x squared minus, whoops, this should have been 6. Ooh, this was a bad problem. Minus 6. So it's going to be 1/3 times 6 is going to be 2. Forgive me on that one, please. Okay, so I plugged them in. Let me just plug in 2 again just to show you how it doesn't work. 1/3, now that I have the right problem. So if I did 2, it would be 1/3. That's so funny how I keep writing 1/2. I don't know what's going on with that. So you're going to get x squared minus 4. And if you distribute it through, you're obviously not going to get this one. So even though this is the hardest problem in the section, you can just substitute your numbers and figure it out. Not so bad. All right, let's go to the grid in section. So the first one is, now look how you can do this easily. You can divide everything by 2. We talk about this a lot in our Algebra 2 class. We're going to divide everything by 2. Look at this. X plus 4 equals 16. Oops, I forgot to divide this by 2. Okay, divide everything by 2. Don't forget to do everything. And then you get x plus 4 equals 8. So your answer is just going to be 8. There you go. I better slow down a little bit, getting ahead of myself. Okay, we have a figure. If you have a figure, it's going to be drawn to scale unless it says not according to scale. So even if you don't know anything, you can guess at it if you know that it's drawn to scale. But we know that this is 60 degrees because they're vertical angles. MQ and NR are congruent. NQ, MQ, NP, let's start over, NP and QP. So these are congruent, and then we know that these two are congruent. Since we know that these two triangles are similar. We also know, this is a good one, if you have a triangle with two sides the same, you know their opposite angles are going to be the same. You don't even need the similar triangles. We know that this one is going to be 180 minus 160 is going to be 120 because they're a linear pair. And so a triangle has 180 degrees, which is basically the only geometry problems they put on the test. And so we know if we subtract 120, we're going to get 60, but we have to share it between the two angles, so the answer is 30. Pretty simple, not too difficult. All right, let's go back up here. This is something you're probably not familiar with. It says the number of radians in 720 degree angles can be written as a pi, where a is a constant. Some of you probably have no idea what that is. I know in Algebra 2 we've not talked about that. But we can turn degrees into radians. And you don't even know what they are, but you're still going to do it. Okay, the way we turn degrees into radians is there's a conversion factor. You know how we would turn like inches into feet? You would say there's 12 inches in 1 foot. There's a conversion factor for radians. You would say there's 180 degrees in 1 radian, like that. So this is something you might want to write on your formula sheet. It's really important to, if you want to change radians into degrees or degrees into radians. So since the degrees are on the top, we have to flip our unit multiplier around and put pi over 180 like this. 180 actually goes into 724 times, so you're going to get 4 pi radians. So they want to know what the number is in front of the pi. Well, the number in front of the pi is 4. So anytime they ask you to change degrees into radians, you have to memorize this. And that's going to it's going to make the problem easier than what they're going to think it is, or you're going to think it is. Okay, let's go to the next board. Okay, hold on, I have to find it. All right, the graph of a line in the xy plane passes through the point 1, 4. So I'm going to draw my lines again. Anytime there's like a line problem, I would draw the lines. Draw as much of the problem as you can. I draw everything when I do a test. So the graph of the line xy plane passes through the point 1, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't even know what I'm doing yet, but I'm just graphing it. And crosses the x-axis at the point 2, 0. So it's going to cross right down here. Okay, 2, 0. So where's it going to cross on the y-axis? We don't know where it's going to cross. But we know we have these 2 points, so we can figure out the slope. So we're going to go down 4 and to the right 1. So our slope is going to be -4 over 1. I'm not even going to connect these. Well, maybe I'll try. I'm really bad at connecting, especially on this thing. Okay, so the slope of this line is down 4 over 1. And so we can use our formula y equals mx plus b. And we can plug in one of these 2 points. And I picked this one. You could use either point. This is your x, and this is your y. And I'm going to plug them in. So we're going to get 0 equals -4 times our x value is 2 plus b. And you're going to get -8. So b equals 8. And that's where it's going to cross the x-axis. You guys all should have done that somewhere in Algebra 1. Okay, the final one, the expression above can be written in the form ay squared b, where a and b are constants. What's the value of a and b? Okay, they're just trying to mess you up a little bit here. We're going to distribute this and combine like terms, and it's going to be really easy. So I'm going to have 7,532 plus 100 y squared. I'm going to distribute that 10 through, so we're going to get 100 y squared, another 100 y squared, minus 1,100 and 100. Now I'm going to combine my y's together, so you're going to get 100, 200 y squared, and then we're going to subtract 7,532 minus 1,100. Again, you got to do this by hand, which is so torturesome. And now we're going to look, a is the number before the y squared, and b is the constant. So we're just going to add those 2 numbers together, and we get 6,632. And I don't think that one was bad at all. What do you guys think? All right, before we go on to the Khan Academy part that we're going to do, I'm going to just look at, hold on, that'll blind your eyes a minute. I'm going to look at maybe 1 or 2 from section 4 that I thought was worthy of our time. Let's see if I can find them real quick. I wanted to do one of them because I feel like we could use a little bit more practice on it. Okay, we're going to look at, let's just look real quick at number 27. So this is section 4. I have to get a white marker because I'm on a black board now. This is test 7, section number 4. 27, just real quick because we haven't talked about this. The world's population has grown at an average rate. So it has a rate of 1.9%. And there were approximately 4 billion people when it started, 4 billion. That's our initial amount, right? That's our A, 4 billion. And it says, which of the following represents the world population, P, in billions of people, T years since 1975? So we want to find out what T is. And I just want to remind you of the formula. So you're going to have y equals, this is growth. You're going to say A times, that's the initial amount, 1 plus the rate. If it's decreasing, if it's not growth, you do 1 minus R. And so we get y equals, it was 4 billion. And then you're going to have 1 plus, just remember when you change the rate, you're going to change it, you're going to move your decimal over 2 places, so it's going to be 0.019, so it's going to be 0.019 to the t. Just make sure whenever it's rate that you do that, and you'll get these right. They're not hard. So I thought I'd just show you that one problem. Wish we had more time, but you can watch the videos that I have on the spreadsheet that shows you how to do all the problems in section 4. I don't think there's any, there is a circle one. Let's do the circle one real quick, because I think circles are on almost all of them, And so you may as well learn how to do the circle problems. You can use Khan Academy or you can go back to Mario. So it says a circle in the XY plane looks like this. And you're supposed to find that the points that don't lie in the interior of the circle. So this one's actually an easy circle problem. If we draw, whoops, now I need a white line. So if we draw our lines and we plot this circle, I'm going to go really fast here. So if you look at the center of the circle, remember what it is? It's -3, 1, opposite. The radius is the square root of this because the formula is equal to r squared, so the radius is going to be 5. I'm going to plot this point 1, 2, 3, up 1. That's the center. Now the circle is going to be 5 in every direction, so we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and put a point. We can go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a point, and we can go left and right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're going to tell you which point. So the first one's going to be -7, +3. So if we went over -7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, +3, it's going to be in the circle. They want you to, which of the following is not in the circle? So you're going to just plot all those points. Eventually you're going to hit, they're going to say 0, 0, and that's in the circle. I mean, you could kind of make your circle, but I'm horrible at doing these things. You can kind of make a circle then. It's not that bad. Okay, the last one is -3, 2. So if we did 3, 2, look at this, 1, 2, 3, you can see it's not in your circle. So that was an easy circle. If you just know a little bit about circles, you should be able to get that one right. Okay, I'm going to move on. We're going to do some Khan Academy. I already did this video, so I'm going to pop it in and let it play. It'll still sound like I'm talking, but this is going to be a little creative. I'm hoping that I can find it because now I don't see it. 1 second, I have to go get it now. You're going to see my screen. You're going to see everything that I'm doing here. So it was a download, and here we go. I just have to shrink it so that it fits in this section. 1 second. Thanks for your patience. All right. It has to fit in the little part that I have recorded here for you. Okay, so you're just going to listen to this, and then we're about done with our class. So here you go. About the Khan Academy website. We haven't used it very much. We probably could have used it more. Mine automatically logs into a parent portal for some reason from tutoring different kids. I have them connected to my site. What you want to do is once you get there, you're going to hit subjects and then SAT test prep. Wait for my computer to load. A couple things you can do is you can view full test right here. If you would like to take a practice test, you can take practice tests here. You could print them out first if you want to. These are the 8 tests that we have already taken. So if you want to try another one, like maybe practice test 8 because you didn't check the answers to that one, because that was the one we took in the first week. I might print out the PDF version of the test first, and then you can take the test, you can take the whole test, and this one does timing and everything, and it will grade your test. So it's just, you can surf around here and figure that out if you want to take one more practice test. If you want to take one that includes the English and the essay, you could do it right on here. It's going to take quite some time. As you can see, the reading is 52 questions, writing 44, 35 minutes, 25 minutes for our first math section, 55 for the second, and the essay is 50 seconds, 50 minutes if you want to do that. You could also, so we'll come back to that in a minute. See if I can go back. But we can do tips and strategies. And I'm going to review a couple of these before we go to the actual practice part. So stick with me. I'm going to go down. We haven't talked about this yet because we are getting close to your date, so it's time to start talking about these things. There's a lot of different things on the website you can look at for strategies. Some of these we've already talked about. But at the very end, when you scroll down, you're going to see one, tips for test day. So let's look at this real quick. Follow along as I read. Because your test day is coming up, so you want to be ready for your test day. Actually, this is a girl that's going to tell you, if you want to watch her, she's just going to tell you to relax. So we're going to skip that. So the night before, you want to relax. There are a lot of good reasons to not study the night before a test. Marathoners don't go for a run before a race day. Mental marathoners like you shouldn't study for more than an hour on the day before you take the SAT. Your brain needs to rest in order to do your best. So the day before your test, they recommend that you do not do a practice test. Avoid screen time. You're going to need to get a good night's sleep. So avoid bright screens like televisions, phones, movies that will wake up your brain and make it more difficult for you to go to sleep. Eat a healthy dinner. Organize your bag for test day. So the night before, you want to put your ID, your admissions tickets, your pencil, your calculators, your batteries, and other gear in a bag by the door. That way you're not scrambling around right before, and it'll make you nervous then. Make a plan to get to the testing site. So make sure you know where the school is, we're going to be taking the test. Make sure you have a ride, etc., etc. Test morning, wake up early, have a healthy breakfast. They recommend eggs, toast, cereal, bagel, fruit, juice, cheese, and milk. Eat it all. If you drink coffee, drink it. If not, don't start now. Get to the test site early. And try to, I think this one's kind of funny, try to stay clear of nervous people. Yikes. For the math test, you want to underline key parts of the problem. Someone said I was making silly mistakes because I didn't read carefully what the questions were asking. For example, instead of solving for 2x, I might have solved for x. When I started underlining the prompt part of the prompt that was the actual question, I dramatically decreased my number of silly mistakes. On the same line, you want to make sure you're answering the questions that are being asked. So make sure they're saying, if they say, what is x, and you already solved for y, make sure you go back and answer what x is. Order of difficulties, we talked about this a lot. They're in order of difficulty, so you want to worry about the beginning ones. Make sure you get all the beginning ones right, and if you can't get some of the ones at the end, don't waste a lot of time there. Every question on the SAT is worth the same. So don't worry about spending all your time on the hard questions. Make sure you pace yourself. But if you don't know a question, skip it. You can come back to it. Make sure you leave a space on your answer sheet. Make sure your bubble sheet is, you have everything in the right place. We're not even going to read. For the reading, you can come back and read those whole things. For the whole test, don't leave anything blank. There's no penalty for guessing, so we said pick the letter of the day. Use process of eliminations. Elimination, if you don't know an answer, maybe there's a couple you can eliminate, and then you'll have a better chance of getting it right. Cover up the choices. This is one we haven't talked about. You can cover up the choices, come up with an answer. That way you're not tempted just to pick one of the answers below. Pace yourself. Don't spend more than 1.5 minutes on any question on your first pass. We talked about the 2-pass method where you go through it once, answer everything you can, go back the second time, answer the ones that were giving you trouble. Trust yourself. When I was taking practice tests, I had no problem getting the sections done in time, but then I'd spend extra minutes reviewing and second-guessing my first answers. I found I often would switch from the right answer to the wrong one because I doubted myself. So they're basically saying, don't change your answer if you have no good reason to change it. Bubble in batches. I use the system to help me avoid accidentally bubbling in the wrong answer. I complete 5 questions, then I bubble in the answer on the answer sheet. That's up to you, however you like to bubble. If you find that you have extra time at the end of a section, make good use of it. No, it isn't fun to reread all those questions, but you'll be glad if you catch any mistakes. The same goes with the answer grid. Make sure your answer choices are in the right bubbles. That's really important. Okay, let's talk about what you should bring on SAT day. It says read this before you leave for your official SAT. So we're going to read it now so that you're all ready. So what do you bring on test day? Here's a quick overview. Arrival and check-in. When you arrive at the test center with all the necessary items, we're going to list the necessary items. You will find a check-in area where you will present your photo ID and your admissions ticket. Photo ID. Make sure you have either a driver's license or you go to the DMV and get yourself a photo ID. You'll be needing to print out an admission ticket as well. If you registered for the SAT, they'll send you an admission ticket in an email. The administrator may assign you a testing room when you check in, or you may be directed to one where the test starts. Just go to your room. Take the test will be administered section by section. Nothing big about that. Breaks. You will be given 2 short breaks. The first one following the 65-minute reading test. It'll be 10 minutes long. The next one will be only 5 minutes. That's not very many breaks. That's like 15 minutes in that big long test. And it'll happen after you complete the writing and language test. In the first section, the math test. Oh, so you do get 2 more 5-minute breaks. So you get one in between the math sections. If you're taking the essay, you'll be given a 3rd break. The break will only be 2 minutes. Wow. After the test, once you've finished your test, you'll bring up your test and you'll celebrate. Your scores will be available several weeks after the test. Usually they take 3 weeks, and they usually come out on a Thursday. You'll receive an email when your scores are available and ready to view. Every time you register for the SAT, you receive 4 score reports for free up to 9 days after you take the test. So you don't really have time to see how your test is going to be before you send them to a school. So you can take a chance and you can send it, or you can send it for, I think it's like $5 if you want to wait till your test score comes in. So what do you need to bring? You need to bring your admission ticket, which will come in an email, or you can go log into your MySAT and get a printable admission ticket. You need your photo identification. If you don't know what that is, I would go to DMV and get one if you don't have a driver's license, or you can click on this at your own convenience. It's under test day, what to bring. Bring number 2 pencils with a soft eraser. Mechanical pencils are not allowed. Note that. And you need an acceptable calculator. I think everybody in our class had an acceptable calculator, but you might want to look at the calculator policy and make sure your calculator's on the list. What you might wish to bring, that's not required, bring a watch without an audible alarm. So there's usually a clock on the wall, but if there's not, I would go in with a watch, because you need to pace yourself. Extra batteries. You want to make sure your calculator batteries are charged. Mine is chargeable. Doesn't have batteries. Make sure it's charged. Bring a water bottle. You can have a snack during your short breaks that you can eat quickly. Dress in layers. You don't know if it's going to be hot or cold. And bring a bag or a backpack. What you should not bring to the test: cell phones. If your cell phone goes off, they could kick you out of the test. It says right here, if you are seen using a device at any time during the 4 hours of the test, including breaks, your scores will be canceled. So don't bring a cell phone, iPod, tablets, laptop, pagers, separate timers, cameras, any device, including digital or smart watches. So watch for that. If you have an Apple Watch or whatever, leave it at home. And cell phones, of course. So that's that part. Now let's go back to the site, and I'm going to show you where you go to practice. So I'm just going to jump back. I'm going to go this way. You could just use the back button if you wanted to. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. So you can go right here to, this is current skill levels. I do this with certain kids use my computer, and we use this, so it's somebody's skill level that's used my computer. You can go to practice, and we're going to go to math. And underneath the math section are all different types of problems. So we have Heart of Algebra, and there's all different kinds. There's Passport to Advanced Math. This is the more complicated math problems that we've done, like the radicals, rational exponents, polynomials, lots of graphing, function notation. Then we have problem solving. This is more part 4, where you have all the word problems that you need to read. And then, of course, additional topics. What could they be? Like the volume, the right triangle, the trig, the arc lengths. These are kind of I think these are kind of advanced. The circles, if you weren't sure about the circles, they're on every test. So I would learn how to do circles. And your complex numbers, they're the imaginary numbers. Now, one thing you can do, obviously you don't have time to do all of them, is you can do these how-to examples. So let's just go down to our friend, the circle, and let's see what they have. They have basic examples, and then there's harder examples. So if we click on a harder example, let's see what happens here. So they will give you an example, and it's kind of like, there you go. So I don't know what happened to it, why it just started there, but if you do it on yours, it's probably because someone on my computer already started watching that. But what you can do, I think, is a good idea, is to go to that section that we were at, as soon as it lets me go there. I think it's on another tab. You can go and you can see that there's the basic examples and the harder examples. So this week, when you don't have a test to do, I would go down through each of these. You can do the basic, and if you go to the basic and you think, oh, that's pretty easy, just skip it, go to the harder example, and just watch all these videos, basic and harder, basic and harder. Some of them, if you know you have trouble with some of the different types, like if you know you can't do right triangle word problems, make sure you get those done, and you might need to skip some other ones. So that's your homework for the week before test. Just go and the Khan Academy and practice these problems. So that's it for this, and I'm going to go back to our other video. All right, so let's go to our conclusion for this class. Hopefully it wasn't too long and boring. I think online classes can be pretty boring, especially if they're pre-recorded. So sorry about that. Let's just look at your final week's homework. This is what I want you to do to prepare for the test. So go to the Khan Academy website that I was just at. Watch the example videos. Do your weak areas first. Do some of the practice problems. It's on that site. You can watch the videos and you can do practice problems. And if you're really ambitious, try to print out one more test. It's on the Khan Academy site. We've already done all 8 of them, but you can print out one of them. I would do test 8 over again if you're going to pick one. Then I would go to Mario Math, watch some of those weak areas like this formula and the half-light formula. And finally, you want to study your formula sheet. And I'm going to go to that before we end. Here's the formula sheet that I gave you. If you did not get the formula sheet, let me know and I'll email you one. But there's lots of formulas on here. They do have the growth one right here, but they did not put on the half-life formula. So let's just throw that one on. The half-life formula is n equals the original amount, and then it's going to be 1/2 to the t, which is your time, over your half-life. So it might say the half-life is 4 years, so you divide it by 4. Let's some other ones that would, the quadratic formula, please know this. I don't know, it might be on the other side, but you also need to know the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. Remember that one? It's a discriminant. If it's greater than 0, you have 2 answers. If it's equal to 0, you have 1 answer. Oh, that looks bad. 1 answer. And if it's less than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 0, it's going to, or less than 0, it's going to be 2 imaginaries or no real solutions. So keep that in mind. Look at all this, the formula for circles, we talked about all that. You can look through all these, but here's our triangle formula. Just take your time and memorize these before you go. It's going to serve you a lot if you do this ahead of time. Even some of these Pythagorean identities, I haven't seen any of those, but I know they're on the test. So that is it for the SAT class. If you have any questions, please email me. Once you get your test results back, please let me know what you got, even if it didn't get better. Usually it gets better, but just make sure you're prepared, and we will talk to you later. That's it. As soon as I figure out how to shut this down. Sorry, this always takes me a minute. All right, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.